Welcome everybody. So excited to be back with all of you. It's been entirely too long. We'll give it just a minute or two here. I'm using a bit of a new OBS setup. Want to make sure it's streaming properly. Want to make sure that you all are hanging out with me. I really missed getting to do these live streams while I was enjoying beautiful Argentina for a full week. Now, it's just a week in my time, but it really feels like it was a lifetime since I've been doing any of these. Oof, I could see the green screen's not perfect here at OBS, but my room's a mess, so we're just going to have to roll with it. Got one concurrent viewer. Maybe if I turn this light on, it'll look just a bit better. And we are down to 0 viewers. Wow. Guess you're all not interested in hearing about Argentina. Quite a shame. ETH LATAM was really quite a blast. Really a gorgeous country. Really wanted to get out to Patagonia. Patagonia is where all the good hiking is, but alas, it's winter down there, so we've been a little bit frozen to make my way into Patagonia. But so it goes. Downside is I missed out on a ton of activity in cryptocurrency. I've just barely been keeping up this past week trying to catch up with everything. Hey, layman's terms, GM. So long since we wrapped with you. Hope you're doing good, sir. I'm sure you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. It is nice to see you. Nice to be back doing this. It's been entirely too long. Hope no one is too disappointed about the market tumbles last night. It's pretty interesting stuff. Now, I don't really follow price action, so I mean, I kind of noticed it last night before I went to bed and laughed a little bit. Really want Ethereum to get down to 800. Hopefully it gets there, but I'm afraid it might not. We're just about a month away from Ethereum staking, and that's one of my big tasks now that I'm back, is trying to get all my nodes set up. I had a bit of an issue because I was away for the Gurley merge, and I'd spent a ton of time getting the Gurley thing set up so that in theory it would just be rolling, and really unfortunate timing that it happened to be right while I was away, because I got to see all the fun memes. And in fact, when I got back, I was a little bit disappointed to find that I'd set up my node wrong. So I hadn't used the most updated software. And I came back and saw that the 32 fake Gorley Ethereum that I'd put in was suddenly worth just about 1 ETH less than that. So it looked like I was getting slashed pretty bad. And no idea. I just wanted to see that cute little panda bear image that they'd had written out in the text for when the merge actually occurred. But I missed it. Layman's terms. No comprendes el español. Do I think the downturn today is something blowing up globally? You know, it's tough to say. I think I haven't read too much into it. I read some stuff about maybe some options were expiring for the end of the month. I don't know how much that's true or not, but it feels like it might be true. I'll retweet a tweet real quick here that was one person's speculation on it. I'd seen some stuff about like the market was going to be down like 1%, so it was things getting ahead of it. I just kind of think anytime like a massive amount of liquidations build up, they're going to get liquidated. So a ton of people seem to have been levering up lately, thinking the bear market was behind us, but no, this bear market is not behind us by any stretch. It's going to be long time pain. But I don't even think it's that painful, because we didn't really drop that far. Like, I'm still hoping for ETH to get under 800 bucks. Who knows? Hola, Nahui. Must be from perhaps someone I met in Argentina. Welcome, and GM as well to Simba47. So this is from everyone's favorite Tubby Cat, saying that was the largest negative CVD in all ETH futures history in the span of 15 minutes. 1.7 million Ethereum traded. Delta of the total volume was negative 300,000 Ethereum. Pretty wild. Of course, not actually selling this much real ETH, but ETH is now the most traded or gambled futures over BTC even. Quite the dead cat bounce indeed. I haven't even checked what prices are doing. I know my much loved Curve token is really suffering. It fell from like 90th place down to 110th place. So that should have been perhaps a leading indicator, since Curve, as we've seen, tends to do pretty good when the market is about to pop up, and it tends to do pretty bad when the market's doing bad. So Curve kind of falling from 90th down to 100th might have been a leading indicator that the markets were about to nuke, and pretty hard at that. But yeah, it doesn't even feel like a nuke until it hits 800 bucks, because that was real peak pain. This is kind of still in like nothing burger territory. At least for me. I hope all of you aren't trading super leverage to the gills. If you're just joining here, forgive the issues with OBS. My laptop camera got a little bit damaged, so I'm having to use a new webcam. And it's, as you can see, a little bit grainy. You can kind of see the outline. Hola, Crypto Chica! Thank you again for a fantastic conference. I sent you the link by DM. Feel free to send this article to anybody. It was just my experiences with ETH LATAM. I'm sure I forgot a ton of things, but had to write down the full travelogue because it was a really great country. Just fun to see how thriving cryptocurrency really is in Latin America. Got to meet the founder of Lemon App, which most people here might not know what Lemon App is, but it's huge down in Buenos Aires. They have a pretty great deal. They'll just deliver a card to you at the airport containing money being exchanged at the most favorable exchange rate. The only catch is they can't do it if you're American. So, no bueno for nuestros americanos. And L says, GM? Tobias, am I still in Argentina? You know, I thought long and hard about staying in Argentina because it was so nice there. But for some reason I boarded the plane back to America. So I'm back in the United States if anyone wants to hang out. I will certainly have to return to Argentina soon, though. What a great country. Just gorgeous. But missed a whole ton while I was out. Like, it's while I was in Argentina that all the craziness was going on with regard to the tornado cash. So got to talk to a lot of people about their opinions on that. Of course, missed the most recent crash. I missed Curve getting hacked, which feels like it was a lifetime ago. Just a ton happening as always every day in crypto. Even just this morning I saw that Convex is a big announcement, so I'm pretty eager to see what Convex is doing with regard to Fraxlend, new Frax features, and digging into that. It just always warms my heart to see the innovation in the space. Questions? What do you all want to talk about here? Do I trade options? I do not trade options, although I've considered it. DopeX in particular has outlined just a really useful case for how you can basically hedge your curve yield against downside exposure. Essentially, it means like you take like a little bit of a haircut on future yield, but you are able to kind of flatline your potential losses in the event that prices go down. We know that prices go down all the time in this space, so I'm awfully interested in trying it out. Now, for my sake, like, I may not be as active of a trader as most people. Like, trading crypto can be a full-time job, and if you're not like there kind of day trading, I'm just lazy. I like to take my money that had previously, like, I've been in crypto for some number of years, and usually like my small bags were just kind of sitting there doing nothing, and I was desperate to find yield on it. Like, all I care about is getting something over the 0% if it's just sitting there. So as long as my money's kind of in Curve yield farming or other sources, I'm pretty happy. And as I found out during the most recent downturn, Curve really was the best place to be keeping the money. So the fact that DopeX plays nicely with Curve, like, at this point it might be worthwhile trying to play around with it, just because we also, one of the things I saw I missed was it looks like we got some more clarity on when Curve USD might be released, according to Michael. And he says, obviously, before the end of the year. And the end of the year is pretty close, like 4 months, a lifetime in crypto, but pretty soon. if you are just counting. So we might be seeing Curve USD right around the corner, in which case that could be some pretty exciting news. But in the event that Curve USD comes out, possibly there will be like interesting applications that you could do in terms of options with trading with that. So really excited to see what DopeX has built out. Really excited to see everything on Arbitrum in general. We're seeing Gains Network, GMX doing really fantastic stuff on Arbitrum. So it looks like it's going to become a big thing. That whole flywheels, wow. Curve USD, best USD. We don't know. Until we see what Curve USD is, we can't say. I can comment on my Viper tutorial, which is another thing I've fallen a bit behind on during traveling. But the Viper tutorial, I can teach all of you how to make your own Curve USD. But we have to assume that Michael's Curve USD is going to be a shade or two better than typical Curve USD. And if so, we'll have to see how it fits in the flywheel, if at all. We'll have to see what it looks like. Ooh, that's a juicy flywheel right there that layman's terms lays out. Curve, butterfly, convex, Stargate, DopeX, JPEG. Missed one in there, I'm not sure which one, but I counted wrong. But let's just walk through each of these, because Curve I think we know enough about. Curve is really nice to see while I was down in Latin America at the crypto conference. Everyone I talked to about Curve had very, very strong and positive feelings about Curve. And of course, Argentina's been ransacked by inflation, so they know stable coins better than most. They got hit hard by the US Terra thing. So many people were like really excited to make it. Yeah, how often, if you have to deal with double-digit inflation on the regular, how often do you get the chance to get double-digit yield that might counteract that out? StakeDAO token I missed. StakeDAO is a great piece of the flywheel. So a lot of these people in Argentina were super familiar with stablecoins, so of course they were super familiar with Curve. They had nothing but great things to say about Curve. When they heard I worked for it, they kind of gave me the rock star treatment, which really contrasts with here in the United States. When I went to ETH Denver, I was treated like garbage. So, more points for Buenos Aires. Butterfly's been doing really cool stuff. It didn't really occur to me just how cool Pyrex, Redacted's Pyrex was until I started digging into it for the infographic I released earlier this week. And oh wow, that was something else. Like the stuff they're going to be doing with the advanced futures notes, where you can write bribe futures notes or vote futures notes and trade them liquidly. It's going to make the flywheel a little bit more interesting. Like at a certain point, there's just going to be, in my expectations, so much activity on the flywheel that it's going to be a very fun time. Not financial advice, of course. Nothing in here financial advice. Convex. Yeah, they just did an announcement earlier this morning, Convex. I'm trying to pull it up, but my computer is a bit too slow to manage both OBS. But it looks like it is, in addition to other things, Gearbox Protocol looks like they're going to be entering these kind of wrapped Convex wars, according to Zero G's, who helped me work on that infographic. And then we're probably going to see a fair amount of new applications between Convex and Frax, especially as Frax is building out some really robust infrastructure. So just really exciting times for the flywheel. Stargate, I haven't looked into Stargate lately, but I saw someone saying that they think it might be one of the better buys during this dip. Again, not financial advice, just looks pretty interesting. Yes, as if all of the eggs in a single basket will get... Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. StakeDAO is doing great. Really big fan of what they're doing. If you're playing the StakeDAO game, you can actually get better yield on your curve through StakeDAO than almost any other option. So it's kind of interesting to see what that's going to do, as well as what effects it might have on the StakeDAO token itself. DopeX, I already talked a bit about DopeX. They're just doing phenomenal work. Really big brain stuff. Check out, there's a tweet that I retweeted where they were talking about someone had to write a paper for business school, I think it was, and they decided to write about DopeX, and they blew the professor's mind. And then JPEG has been showing a bit of noise lately. NFT is obviously doing pretty well despite the downturn in the market, so they're holding their value pretty good, and that works to the benefit of JPEG. Also, stay tuned because I've been working on some NFT projects that will be launching soon, one of which is through PacDAO. We're pretty excited that we're finally going to get our Congress crypto kitties off the ground, and this is going to be to specifically fundraise for a legal challenge for the incident that's been going on within the United States. Uh, do we really need that many USD? DAO, RAI, USDC, Frax, SOV, USD, now, crv.USD. Yeah, there's a ton of different US wrapped tokens, and my contention is that you do in fact need this much wrapped USD. But most specifically, what the space needs more than anything is a few giant options for USD. I think that's the biggest thing that we're lacking in stablecoins. So it has been filled by Tether, USDT are the biggest, but USDC is a bit risky at this point. I treat USDC kind of similar to the way Argentines treat pesos at the moment, which is don't necessarily want to like be holding on to it for too long because who knows what's going to be happening to it. So keeping USDT, like if I do, I'm more likely to keep it like a curve pool, so it has like hedged exposure to other stable coins. But when you get down to it, like the mechanics for how all these stable coins work, some of them are very good at certain things. And I think there's a bit of a distinction between a stable coin that's really tightly hard pegged to a dollar and a stable coin that's pegged near a dollar. So some of the coins I would put in that latter category are like the inflation adjusted coins that Frax is coming out with. I would talk about the LUSD and PUSD, for example, have a tendency to keep at or above a dollar, which is a really nice property for a stable coin. If you own the stable coin, you don't really care about it depegging to the upside. You care about depegging to the downside. So the fact that some of these stable coins like Frax US, Frax is like hedged, I'm blanking on the name of it at the moment, but they have their inflation-backed stable coin, or inflation-resistant stable coin. That one's a super interesting one. So that has a different use case than some of these other ones because there's a small supply of each of these. You can't do the massive multi-billion-dollar transactions that you really need in order for a stablecoin to have a ton of value. So I think if your stablecoin doesn't have at least $1 billion in it at the moment, and realistically, by the time like DeFi really makes it, it's going to have to be closer to $1 trillion. Obviously, no stablecoins there yet, but at some point, for these stablecoins to have systemic utility, they're going to need to have market caps of $1 trillion. I still think that it'll be the USDCs and the tethers that are first to get there, just because that's the business model that's kind of going to have the largest number of on-ramps and off-ramps. But we need multi-billion-dollar to multi-trillion-dollar eventually options to make DeFi really sing. We saw that DeFi was just a much better space when there was multiple billions of dollars in it, and after the collapse of Celsius and everything, a lot of that money was not real, evaporated in overnight. How can anything be worth that much when it's backed in debt? So I would have agreed with you before, but I recently read a book that changed my thinking on debt. It's called Debt, the First 5,000 Years or something to that extent. And it's just a fascinating read. It goes through the entire history of our ecosystem. And it really directly makes the analogy that pretty much most money is debt. And most of our entire economy is debt. So when you start to see that the entire planet, everything, all of our social relationships are debt based, you start to realize the power of like the LUSDs of the world that are minting these stable coins through a debt issuing. It gave me a huge appreciation for Aave in particular. The cascade that could happen is the risk here, selling US treasuries. Yeah, you can't really have... The issue is as these stable coins become systemically important, the United States has an interest in keeping the US dollar stable. And as a result, that's the whole reason for too big to fail. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I rag on the US government a lot because they do a lot of bad things. But trying to generally keep their bread and butter in the US dollar system generally stable is something they're really interested in. So when they see these stable coins, USDT, USDC, becoming systemically important such that their collapse could threaten the US dollar, or like several of them own a lot of US treasuries, they're going to do what they can to keep those coins stable, and that's where they're pushing themselves in. Arguably a huge overreach in terms of what they've done lately regarding adding Ethereum addresses to sanctions lists. So of course everyone should comply, especially Americans. Better to be on the safe side of the law. But just really, really bad step on their part. In my opinion, it undermines America's chances for prosperity. We're already seeing the ripple effect of DeFi developers are just not willing to build products in America anymore, so the rest of the world gets the fruits of our spoils. And people now consider USDC to be too risky to use. USDC and its multiple billions of dollars could have been the best possible tool for the United States to push its global hegemony, but they were not smart with it. They decided to, before the technology had kind of gotten off the ground, they decided to exploit everyone's worst fears. So better it happens sooner than later, but that's just how it is. Where are we creating good debt is my question. So I think LUSD is a perfect example of good debt. I'm seeing the value in some of these debt protocols now, particularly within cryptocurrency. When, like, I've been searching for yield, things like curve pools, but it sort of strikes me that the way that super rich people become richer is that they don't ever sell their assets, they borrow against them. Like Elon Musk was going to be borrowing against his Tesla stock in order to purchase Twitter. It works pretty good when you have these bags that are sitting around doing nothing. If you don't need it for any amount of time, to lend it out and get something back. It has to be kind of something tangible and specific, but I'm by no means good at this game yet, but I think there's smart ways to play it. The question is going to be, I think, largely if the IRS ultimately agrees to lending crypto, receiving the same tax treatment as lending other assets. Because generally, if you take out a loan, there's no taxable event unless you default. And it's unclear how the IRS is going to treat that. So I'd, of course, urge everybody to consult your financial professional, your accountant, and get their thoughts on that before you engage in cryptocurrency lending. Good morning, Verquer. Happy to finally catch a stream. Likewise. It's been a fun one. It's been too long since I did one of these. I'd like to try and do at least a couple of these per week, just because it keeps me fresh, keeps me sane, makes me feel like I'm a social human being getting to talk with people. Although I do see people dwindling. It could be any number of reasons. My guess is I started talking about Tornado Cash and got a little bit throttled or something. So got to be careful as I'm doing these live streams. But I don't think I said anything bad, but you never know. You never know with these things. What other questions and comments do you all have? Hitting that 25-minute mark where I may be gassed out. Because if you guys aren't going to entertain me in the chat, then I'm just going to have to go hit up crypto Twitter, catch up on everything I missed. My computer doesn't seem to be powerful enough to be able to handle both me talking with all of you and crypto Twitter. Now this is interesting. Condom says that the second largest long liquidation in GMX history occurred last night. So great time for all these protocols printing fees. I haven't looked to see what has Curve fees been doing in this last 24 hours. Because this kind of volatility is much better for Curve than that crab market. Oh man, Gabriel Shapiro says he thinks that U.S. government has won. DeFi is going to divide into regulated DeFi and Badlands DeFi. And most blue chip projects are going to be going the way of the former. It's possible, but I would ultimately long-term bet on the Badlands DeFi. In my experience in this space, it's always been the most kind of decentralized one that's been able to build its way. Not tremendous crypto volumes, by the way, on Curve. I just pulled it up. 250 million daily volume is pretty good, but I was hoping to see one of those billion-dollar days. Crypto volume share only at 40%, which is a bit of a surprise. I would ordinarily expect crypto volume to be pretty big on TriCrypto when things make a big move like that. And TriCrypto did see 260 million, 50 million. 3Pool saw some big volume there. Stargate had some big volume too. So I wonder if did the Stargate price tank? Yeah, Stargate's down to 78 cents, which, not financial advice, but looking interesting, looking like doing some more research at those levels. Layman's Terms asks if Hidden Hand plays a big role here. Oh, jokes from DeFi LATAM. Gracias. Una semana buena. Hello and rocket to FXS. Yes. So the question about hidden hand playing a big role, they call themselves hidden hands, so of course they play a big role, and we're never going to know exactly what it is. Hidden hand is one of many big players around the Curve ecosystem. So I haven't teased out exactly the amount of role. There'll be a really interesting article to write to get a sense of how big is their footprint versus some of these other players. I think it's a bribe weekend, so you'll be able to kind of keep an eye on bribes, because whoever bribes the most is ultimately probably moving the most within Curve. That'll be another interesting thing to look at, is like the changes lately in the bribe landscape, because it seems like at least a couple of protocols are looking more heavily into doing direct curve locking. Spell is no longer looking at bribing Spell directly, but they're looking at doing staking a third of their curve and using this towards Magic Curve, and this would inform things. So pretty interesting stuff. All right, my friends, really appreciate you hanging out with me this morning. I promise I'll get the OBS stuff fixed up in time for next time I do one of these. But always a pleasure. Drop your questions and comments as always, because build all this off of your feedback, and enjoy the weekend.